Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2019 Career Mode, episode number 52 today for the Austrian Grand Prix in Season 3. If you guys did miss the previous one at the French GP, then be sure to go check that one out before you see the rest of this one. But heading into then the Red Bull Ring, we have no upgrades of course. Other teams may be upgrading around us, and so we remain in second place behind McLaren. McLaren thankfully don't have any upgrades themselves, and actually only two teams to upgrade really are Racing Point and Haas there, so all stays the same here at the Red Bull Ring. Obviously last time McLaren went on to win the race, so they might be once again giving us a challenge here at Austria, but it's a bit of a power circuit compared to France, so I think the straight line speed we have in the car, especially with DRS open, should bode well for us in qualifying and also in the race. So I'm feeling confident we can try and punch back a little bit more than we did at France. So let's go into qualifying and see how we do.
Thank you for joining us once again for today's qualifying session. Sit back, relax and enjoy what we hope will be a fantastic contest for pole position. Now then, Anthony Davidson, you're not getting any younger, but you have been involved in your fair share of qualifying sessions in an illustrious 30-year career. How do you deal with the pressure when you have that one chance to deliver a perfect lap?
It's not so much about dealing with the pressure, it's more about how you approach the risk and just how much of it are you willing to take. You're constantly balancing the car on the edge of grip from braking, cornering and traction, and over the course of a lap, it's easy to get that balance wrong, and that's why achieving the perfect lap is almost impossible. As you say, I've been doing this 30 years now, and it never gets any easier.
Alright, so Q1 at the moment, nice and sunny then, but there is some rain forecast for later on today on Saturday, and also indeed tomorrow on Sunday's race. We'll have to see how that goes, and that will obviously affect things a little bit negatively for us, but across the line then in Q1, and thankfully that's going to be nice and easy up into Q2. Very level pegging with Leclerc there, actually in P6 and 7 there, so a little bit slow off the mark in the first qualifying session, but that's no worry. Obviously it doesn't really matter as long as we get through this session. But Q2 then, a little bit of a mistake there into turn 1 with the lock up there, kind of scrub off a bit too much speed there for my liking. But as we go through the lap then, the track you can see already getting a little bit darker as we kind of drift through the last corner very aggressively there, very beautifully indeed in a way actually, and get across the line for P1 then. And overcast conditions are coming, so the rain is on its way, and it is actually going to start raining just right to the death of Q2 here. We're in P5 at the moment, and as I fast forward through, I think there's no point to go out again. There is not. Leclerc finish up in P2, I'm P5. You can see there a few people did get caught out, and one of them is Lando Norris in one of the McLaren cars. So Perez makes it through, he's P1 then Q2, but Norris out of Q2. That's going to be devastating for him because McLaren clearly have the pace to be right up there, of course, now with those upgrades they had from last episode. So we now moved on into Q3. A big mistake for us in turn 1, sends us wide across the sausage curve there, so that definitely lost us a lot of time there. And of course, you guys know the AI very quick in the wet, so it's going to be very difficult to really do much in this qualifying session. We go across the line for P5, eventually it'll be down to P9. You can see how far off the pace we are, and Pierre Gasly right now, my old teammate in the Red Bull car, is on pole position. I don't know how he's done that, but he set a blistering lap time. We go through turn 1 for our second and final flying lap then in Q3 then. We've gained a decent amount of time there, nearly about 4/10 as we got up to the end of this Sector 1 split. Again, going to gain some more time to the hairpin as we lost some time on the exit it was on that previous attempt there. So we're going to gain up to about nearly 6-7 tenths there as we go through the final corners. We're nearly up to 1.5 seconds gain as we drift the car through there, slide it through the last corner. Gasly still on provisional pole as people have set their lap times already. We go across the line, we improve our lap time, but it's only enough for a measly P7 then. It is our lucky number P7, if you don't know. That's my kind of lucky number, I like to think. So it is maybe hopefully going to be lucky for the race tomorrow. But look at that. Leclerc in P5 and Pierre Gasly in the Red Bull beats the McLaren and both Renaults by a stonking margin. I mean, how on earth has he done that? I don't know. Devin Butler's been beaten by a sizable amount as well. So that's a massive gap from Gasly to Butler there. So Butler splits us 2 Toro Rosso cars. So we've got a very interesting grid on our hands for tomorrow's race. And there's some rain to come in the middle of that as well. So it's going to be a very interesting one indeed. Let's go to the grid then and see how this shakes out.
Good afternoon and welcome to Spielberg, and to a circuit that in one form or another has held every Austrian Grand Prix in the championship, except the very first back in 1964. It was at this race that John Watson lost a bet and his beard when he took Team Penske's only F1 victory in 1976. If anything, the stakes are even higher today, with 25 points available for victory and a crucial advantage in the championship fight. It's one of the shortest laps on the calendar today then, with 7 rights and just 3 lefts, making up the 10 corners of this high-speed circuit. Turn 2 is barely a corner at all. They'll be flat out through there, a left-hand kink into the uphill braking zone of turn 3. Turns 1, 3 and 4 are all potential opportunities to overtake. Anthony Davidson is here once again for today's Grand Prix. Let's talk briefly about Lando Norris. Looks like they've got a tough race in store today, as grid penalties from changing power unit components has forced them further down the field.
Everyone has to deal with penalties or reliability issues from time to time throughout their career. You just have to suck up the pain and get on with the job at hand. Today isn't about performing a miracle to put the car back where it should be, it's about effective damage limitation.
With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Pierre Gasly lines up on pole position. Sergio Perez lines up alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Weber, Verstappen, Charles Leclerc and Butler, the engineer, Hülkenberg, Hamilton and Kevin Magnussen, Bottas, Vettel, Lance Stroll and Giovinazzi, Russell, Ricciardo, Daniel Kvyat and Roman Grosjean. Raikkonen and Lando Norris starts from the back of the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Right, so here we are then on the grid, P7, no grid penalties to unfortunately help us out, so we do start indeed in P7. You can see the race strategy is a one-stop. If it was all dry, soft to mediums, but there is that pocket of rain at some point in this race, maybe about 2/3 into it, that will force everyone onto intermediate. So this will be a very interesting race to say the least when that comes and goes, but obviously lower the fuel down with this efficient engine, and we just got to try and make the best of it. Myself and Leclerc have got to make it up to for what happened yesterday in Saturday. Here we go then to 5 red lights to the Austrian Grand Prix. We're underway from P7, and it's a good start for us actually to keep ahead of Nico Hülkenberg there in the Racing Point car. We cut across and to the inside line for turn 1. Bit of chaos there. Sergio Perez is spewed wide there, and it's a bit of a calamity for us as we're slowed down and held up a little bit by Devin Butler, and a bit of a domino effect that was as everyone slowed down with Perez going nearly completely sideways there. Surprised he didn't go for a T-bone kind of a situation, but lucky for him. But we now send one down the inside of Devin Butler there. We smash his front right tyre there as it all got very close indeed. Bit of contact warning there as Hamilton was also in the mix, so we went 3 wide, nearly 2 wide ahead of us there was between Perez and it's Verstappen in the Renault it is, and Leclerc now is up into P3, so he's had a great start there as we waltz around the outside of Devin Butler to make a good overtake for P6 then. So we've gone forward by 1 position effectively. Leclerc's gained about 3 or 4 there, so it's a good start for him, and I believe it's Lucas Weber now that is in the lead of this Grand Prix. But this is how it started then. Gasly off pole, Perez in P2, sends one down the inside there. Oh, bit of unfortunate contact there, just sends Perez nearly into the wall. That's how Lucas Weber got into P2, so my bad, it's actually Gasly way out ahead then at the moment then. Lucas Weber P2, it was Leclerc then versus Verstappen into the hairpin, and then also look at this, Sergio Perez tries to send one down the inside of both of them there because he makes some contact with Leclerc and tries to recover the positions he lost off P2 there. He does get up into P4 though and gets Verstappen there, but Verstappen able to hold it through at least for the position right behind him, but we're in P6 nonetheless though. We overtook Butler at least that was, and so now we move on to lap number 2, chasing after the Dutchman in the Renault there. Side by side is Leclerc and Perez there. We've gone massively deep there. It's a bad mistake for us, and it's allowed Butler to go down the inside there. Massively underestimated how much braking power we needed into the hairpin, and also, to be fair, more so, the closing speed I had on Verstappen was so much that I almost thought I was going to smash into the back of him, so I had to take avoiding action and go wide on purpose in a way, and so that's allowed Butler through there. So it's all kicking off at the very start of this Grand Prix, and I've not really settled down into this car and into the rhythm yet of this Grand Prix. I feel it's all quite manic still because we've still got side-by-side action ahead of us then. It's Leclerc still battling away with Perez and holding him off for now for that position there. Verstappen P5, still Butler with DRS open. We've got DRS low, and can we try and overtake the Red Bull Works car here on the left-hand side? Maybe, no, to the inside. Want to go instead as Butler holds off that line, but he opens up the door. Thank you very much, Devin, and we're up into P6 once more there. Doesn't put up much of a fight, and now can we finally try and consolidate this and push away and try and chase after Verstappen? I think that's what might be happening right now on lap number 4 as we're right up the gearbox of the Dutchman now. It's going to be a drag race now towards the end of Sector 1, and meanwhile we've got Leclerc again going side by side with Sergio Perez there. Leclerc so far has done a great job at defending, but actually my bad, it's also involving Pierre Gasly Gasly as well. Didn't see that then. So Leclerc, Gasly and Perez all getting involved in a scrap there. And so Gasly's the one that's lost that massively. So the man who was on pole by quite some margin now struggling in the dry in his Red Bull car. Around the outside we go as Leclerc has a massive lock-up in front of us there. Doesn't phase us, and we're able to dance around the outside of Gasly just like we did against Butler there. So another kind of a deja vu moment for us in a Grand Prix as we make a very similar pass then. So at the moment, it's Lucas Weber then is finally in the lead like I thought he was on lap 1. He's now actually in the lead as we go through that lovely artistic camera shot there in the middle sector. P2 is a fight between Perez and Leclerc. Leclerc's coming back at Sergio Perez then, so he's not going to rest after he got overtaken by the Mexican. He's going to come back on the left-hand side there. Perez, though, will have good straight line speed. We know how strong that McLaren looked at France, but the Toro Rosso has an advantage here. The acceleration and raw speed we have every single straight, but the McLaren seems to have better grip in the corners, I think. Obviously, we're waiting on 2 ultimate upgrades for downforce. That should come in next episode, actually, by the way, guys. Obviously, it's taken 4 episodes for the ultimate upgrades to come in, so that should come in next episode. But till that does, McLaren clearly have some sort of advantage in the corners, whereas we have it on the straights. And so Leclerc, again, in the same place, goes around the outside. This time, he might just get it, though, as he has a mega exit there. Perez, though, comes back and fights him a little bit. We got DRS, though. Leclerc does, and Perez does not. So he's a bit of a sitting duck here. We're going to get a bit of a toe off Leclerc. We get very close to just slamming Leclerc off the track. Maybe we just slowed the car down enough, and we pretty much pushed Leclerc through that corner as we got some overspeed I was not accounting for into the brake zone. But we're there. We're up into P3 now, lap number 10, and now we chase after Leclerc. And so once again, we might have another situation of a great scrap with our new teammate Leclerc in the Toro Rosso. And look at this speed we're getting. The DRS is so powerful on this car down the inside, but Leclerc's going to pinch us into the apex. We just didn't have enough confidence on the brakes there to really go for the dive, especially on my teammate. You need to be a bit more careful when it's your teammate, so just couldn't commit there to the inside. Next time, though, I think we'll try around the outside and try the switchback, I think, because the traction's been really good for us. Out of that right hand to the end of sector 1, so here we go once again in the DRS. We're going to fake to the right, go to the left, close DRS momentarily before opening it again, and we're going to brake a little bit early on the left-hand side, get the car turned in sharper, get the power down earlier than Leclerc can, and try and get a good run here. We'll have DRS second bite of the cherry, and this will be the way we can overtake him properly. To the right-hand side there, we're going to power pass. You can see a lot better to do the move here in the place where we overtook both Red Bull cars. Little lock-up on the front right, or quite a big one actually, but we managed to control that, and we're up into P2. But that is maybe a sign of the tyres going off, and the tyres do feel a little bit second-hand, I must say. Whilst we're in the dirty air of Leclerc and Perez there, I could tell the tyres were going off a little bit, and because the rain, we know it's going to come down around 2/3, I'm going to take a gamble here, because I reckon maybe there's a chance that everyone pits just before the rain comes for that second stint, and then they're going to have to pit within a lap or 2 for the intermediate. So I'm going to come in a lot earlier, go aggressive on the tyre choice, and go for another set of soft tyres, because everyone's going to go for a set of mediums, of course, and try and do the one stop. That's the default strategy. But I think what's going to happen is maybe the AI will not factor in the rain, and they'll come in for that stop, you know, let's say, I don't know, lap 15, 16, they'll come in for that stop. The rain will start to come down, you know, 2/3 into the race, so lap 18, 20, so 2 laps later, they have to come in straight away. So basically, it's a useless pit stop for them for that initial dry tyre. So I'm going to try and go a lot earlier here on lap 11 onto lap 12, try and get an undercut on them and see what we can do. It is a gamble because it is a little bit overcast right now, but let's just hope the rain comes down after everyone's making their first pit stop. If not, then it's not going to pay off. But right now, we just can't tell on lap 13. But here we go. All I can tell is we've got some mega pace on these new soft tyres, catching up to Lando Norris there, who's really struggling in traffic, I must say, actually, in the McLaren here, as we now make a double pass down the inside of Russell and Norris. Ride the curb a little bit there like a skateboard on a rail, and we go down the inside. We had to make the overtake work there, and we just about did it. 3 wide at that corner was always going to be a bit tough and a bit of a squeeze, but we made it work, and all parties gave enough room. And so now we come through onto Daniel Ricciardo then in the Ferrari there. We overtook Russell initially, that was in the other Ferrari. So here we go now on the left, on the right hand side, and we've overtaken Rick Bobby very easily there with a DRS. Bit of a wobble as we move through on the grass, but that's fine. We're up into P12, and now we'll try and chase after Valtteri Bottas and Sebastian Vettel in the Mercedes and Williams respectively. But now lap 15, and this is not what I want to see. The rain is starting to come down, so as we overtake Valtteri Bottas, the rain's coming down a lot earlier earlier than I had actually guessed. I thought it was going to start raining about 2/3 of the way through this Grand Prix. We're not even halfway through this GP, and the rain is coming down quite hard actually on our screen. So that is obviously the issue with dynamic weather. It can catch you out, and it's caught me out. So I've tried something too clever here on the strategy maybe, so I may have just thrown away a very good podium possibly. We'll have to see how it goes and develops now as we overtake Vettel. A little bit wide on the exit though, as the track is damp, so these tyres are struggling now. Even with my superior grip on the fresher set of soft tyres, they're still going to struggle, but I should be still actually theoretically faster than these guys at least, because I've still got more rubber on my tyre. As we just go sailing around the outside of Kevin Magnussen, this second Williams car, and just about make it there, riding on the curb once more to make the move done up into P9 then on lap 16. 20 laps to go, a long way to go, so not going to give up here, going to keep on pushing, and so into the hairpin. Hamilton very, very slow. It's a late decision by me to make the move down the inside, but Hamilton was so slow in the Mercedes. It really is very baffling. You know, this is the man I fought in the championship last season, toe-to-toe, right to the death of the season at Abu Dhabi, and now he's in a Mercedes car that is basically just so slow in the corners there that I almost smashed him up the rear because I actually closed on him way too quickly in that instance. So now we're right behind the Racing Point car of Hulkenberg there, and ahead a Red Bull. We're going to try and make the move if we can down the inside left-hand side, getting some good speed there. It's going to be a close move, bit of contact made. We get the move done, but I think it's about time to maybe come in for the wet tyres there, the intermediates, because the track is getting very slippery indeed. The Red Bull is looking like it's going to come in, so we're going to follow him in there. It's Gasly, and so we're going to come in for a set of intermediate tyres, but obviously we've lost a lot of time to Leclerc, a lot of time to Sergio Perez, because we've not even seen them on track anymore, so we didn't gain any time on them in that entire kind of instance. And so yeah, I will admit it was a big gamble I took earlier on this Grand Prix. It's not paid off, but sometimes that happens. Sometimes you've got to go for glory, and so that's I thought something that could have happened there, because I mean, obviously if you guys remember, you've been watching F1 career mode for a while now, you'll know how many times have there been races where the AI have pit in one lap before the intermediates are needed. They pit in for a set of dry tyres, and then literally they come in a lap or two later for intermediates. It's happened a lot on the F1 game, so I thought, you know, this could be another one of those moments, and I could catch them out, be very clever. It's not paid off there. They've been too smart for me today, and so we've been caught out. We're the ones that were the silly ones, so now we're in P12, and we have to try and make up some time here, but obviously this is not my favourite conditions anymore ever since that patch, the 1.05 patch, that very, you know, nasty patch that's made the AI so quick in the wet. So I don't know how this is going to go, to be fair. Although saying that, we are racing cars like the Williams cars that we should be thoroughly beating on track come wet or dry, so I'm hoping we can try and have some action here in this intermediate stint, and it's not just going to be an absolute snooze fest here, as Raikkonen is going wide on the dry tyres. We have to go down the inside and try and narrowly miss our former teammate from Alfa Romeo there, season 2. Lap 17 though, long way to go in this Grand Prix, and hopefully there is some action, and there is going to be some action actually, thankfully. So we move on to lap number 20. We are catching Kevin Magnussen here in P7 for P6 in this Grand Prix. So thankfully there is going to be some action in the intermediates. It won't just be a cut to later on the Grand Prix when we go back to dries, and so we make a switch back move on Magnussen, try and get the power down. You can see the rear end stepping out though, but we have the straight line speed, overtake mode, rich mix engaged. For the first time in a long while, I'm seeing a negative fuel gauge on the bottom right there, as I think the Honda engine's being pushed to the maximum here today, trying to recover these positions in this Grand Prix there, really running the fuel quite low, so we might have to actually save some fuel for once in a long while towards the end of the Grand Prix if this continues there. But you can see in Sector 2 we're getting back some fuel as we now make a very similar move on Pierre Gasly. This time though we get a much better exit, and so we go toe-to-toe with our former teammate from Red Bull, and little bang of the tyres there, so no love lost between myself and Pierre Gasly, as it's a little bit personal, but we get the move done. We're up into P5, but you can tell Gasly really did not want to have me overtaking him, and he wanted to keep the position here, but alas, we made the move done, and now we're going to try and chase after Hulkenberg, who's doing a fabulous job in P4, to be fair to him there. I don't know how he's actually kept Gasly at bay, because that Racing Point car, I know it had an upgrade this weekend, but it's not really been that great so far this season, so kudos to Hulkenberg. But we're going to try and overtake him in a similar move for the third time now in a row. Literally, it's a textbook move here in the rain, it seems, in the Toro Rosso. In Season 3, it would seem, just on the left, then switch to the right, get the power down earlier, and get the move done to the inside of this next right-hander. And so there we go for the third time now in the intermediate intermediate conditions, we get the job done up into P4 of this Grand Prix on lap 23. But onto the very next lap 24, it's time to come back into the pits for a set of dry tyres. So the wet period was really not that long, you know, lap 16 to lap 24. 8 laps we're talking about, so not too much. But now we're in for another stop, and we're going to be doing another set of soft tyres here. So every single dry tyre we've used today has been a red striped soft tyre. We had 2 new ones for the first 2 stints. This one will be a scrub set, so an old set. It'll have a few percentages of wear on it, but it won't be too much. But oh no! In the pit lane, no, we've been jumped by 2 cars there of the red bottom race. The very 2 cars we just overtook have just overtaken us in the pit lane due to a slow stop there and just the awkward timing of them coming down the pit lane. So that's a calamity, and so I'm going to try and re-overtake them now in this Grand Prix and to redo the hard work we basically did beforehand. And so with that, we move on to lap 26 here. We're watching Gasly trying to overtake Hulkenberg, and he's done the move, actually, to be fair. We're going to try and have a little bit of a cheeky move on the outside of Hulkenberg, but Nico's going to get the elbows out and squeeze us straight off track there. We had the space there to work with. He just shut it off completely. So Nico getting very, very aggressive there. So that really sent me into a bit of a red mist and got very angry in the cockpit, I did, in terms of wanting to overtake Hulkenberg very aggressively now on lap 27. Ironically, I think that's his race number, isn't it? Number 27. So on lap 27, we're going to send one down the inside. It's a big dive there, and we're going to get the elbows out ourselves and squeeze them out for good measure and make sure he knows who's boss there. And we're up into P5, and now we chase after Pierre Gasly, the Red Bull, to re-overtake him for a second time now in this GP. Onto lap 28, but an easy pass though in the dry. The car comes live once again, and in the straight line, easy does it up into P4, dancing through turn 1 as well, beautifully on the apex. Now we're up into P4. We can shoot after this clean air and try and see what we can do. Although I saying that, on lap 29, Perez behind me comes and overtakes Gasly. He's at the fast lap of the Grand Prix, so somehow Perez actually fell behind us, because remember, he was battling Leclerc, and he, along with Leclerc, got way ahead of me because I made that gamble. So somehow, I think maybe on the intermediates, he got caught out, and so now he's going to try and attack us on lap 32 to the inside of turn 1. So instead of looking ahead of me, I put it behind me. To be fair though, the gap is massive to Butler, so I was never going to get on the podium, but instead going to try and fight for this P4 there. But Perez has got the move done with DRS. He's got it, but crucially, the second activation point is different, so we're going to get the DRS now. We have the switchback move on Perez there, get another great exit for, I've lost count of how many times we've done that move there at Austria today. We get the job done, DRS open, get back up into P4, and now we try and push away from Perez if we can for 4 more laps. If you can see on the right hand side, the fuel is a bit critical, and the ERS also a little bit of an issue for us to manage. I don't know what went on, but on that 35, second last lap of the Grand Prix, thankfully though, we get this radio message coming in from Perez.
Okay, some information on Perez. They have an issue with their car. They're going to be slow.
So Perez had an issue at the very end of that Grand Prix, which means he slowed up, and actually Hulkenberg overtook him to get back up into P5 there, and so it will mean in the end we're going to get P4 in this Grand Prix. But my teammate Charles Leclerc wins the Austrian Grand Prix in a very crucial race for him to come back at me in the championship, and so that's a bit of a mixed bag in the office, I would say.
Toro Rosso will no doubt be celebrating tonight. What a great win. Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
Well, I know it's a bit of a boring answer, but the truth is they simply had the best speed package on the day, and a driver who knows how to take advantage of that. It doesn't matter how much time you spend poring over the stats and planning strategies if you can't keep the pace, and our winner today showed they could do both.
And look at this, they're coming out now. Toro Rosso have developed something of a reputation for forging exciting talent, and we can see that here. An incredible victory.
So Leclerc gets the win in the end, and actually makes the fact that we gambled and we didn't get it right so much worse, because we were there with Leclerc. We probably would have stuck with him the entire Grand Prix there. So, you know, that happens sometimes in racing. When you take those gambles to try and go for glory, it can go wrong sometimes. Thankfully, more often than not, I get it right, actually, because I'll just get quite lucky in that kind of way with the F1 games, where sometimes it has to crop up that we get the bad side of it. And so Leclerc gets back into the lead of the championship there by 4 points. So it's all still very close, but he's got the lead once more. Obviously, we are maintaining that lead in the constructors. Renault get back at McLaren then, so I thought McLaren would, that upgrade they had at France, that would be the start of them comfortably in P2, but Renault showing some consistency there with Lucas Weber coming back in that Grand Prix, as well as Verstappen as well, and Norris falling away quite a fair bit, struggling in traffic, so that will be a fight to watch out for. But for us as a team, good race, but for me, a little bit frustrating. It was still a fun race there, but obviously, yeah, that gamble's just a bit frustrating, but those things happen. So next one, the home GP, hopefully they can bounce back and get back at Leclerc in the championship then. But guys, if you did enjoy that Grand Prix, then be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're not around here, do subscribe for weekly Formula content. I've been aarava. Hope you stay. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.